So today we're building this Nuovo record derailleur. This also applies to the Super record. They're pretty much the same thing, except for like the knuckles are a little bit different. Also, it does not matter what year it is. They're all pretty much the same thing with some minor like style differences. Mine's a 73, as you can see right here. And some tools you're gonna need are some Allen keys, 8mm wrench or socket, some pliers, and a flathead screwdriver. And the P-bolt will just pop right out. And now pop out your bolt. Hopefully yours wasn't that hard to get out. Mine was. What you can do is just put a screwdriver or something in there or some pliers and then hammer it out from the side. And now to service the B-knuckle, what you want to do, grab your flathead screwdriver and take out this pin. Now let the cage spring back and unscrew this bolt. Boom, there it pops out. Slide off your cage. You got your little seal thing. Now first you want to grab your pick and just gently pop out your little seal, and then push out your spring. And now your derailleur is all nice and taken apart, but just to mention, there is a little pin right here where you can take this little bolt out and you can take the spring out or just move it out of the way to make it easier to clean. You don't have to do this. I'm just gonna make everything a bit harder, and it's not gonna really benefit the derailleur as much because it's all just open here, you know. When you do take it out, you just find that it's just like a pin. It's not really going to affect this much. So if you do take it out, you want to just clean it up, put some grease on it, and then put it back in. But the thing is, when you take it out, the spring gets a little crooked. So you want to make sure you don't strip it when you're threading it back in, because it's going to want to be crooked when you're threading it in because of the spring. So you want to kind of just move the derailleur around and make sure this goes in straight. All right, and now it's time to clean. For this, I like to use some cleaner or degreaser. You can use alcohol, brake cleaner. If you have any heavy dirt, you can use a steel or a brass brush. And in my case, I'm using this ultrasonic cleaner. All I'm using is water and dish soap. All right, now everything's all nice and cleaned down, and now it's time to assemble. And also, I polished some of the chrome stuff down with this quick glow wax right here. And if you're wondering, the aluminum stuff, it like all Campagnolo things is hard anodized, which means you can't polish it. But maybe if you're watching this like 500 years from now, the hard anodizing maybe has worn off and you can polish it. But for now, this is all you can do, just leave it alone. And another thing you're gonna need for the assembly is grease. And I also like to use some of this saran butter stuff. And now real quick, I want to talk about the replacement pulleys. As you can see, these right here are super worn out. They need to be replaced. Just for the sake of the video, I'm going to use these. The pulleys on these Campagnolo derailleurs get worn out pretty often because these things are tanks and people just use them forever. So you have several options when you come to replacing them. I'll have links in the description. First option is these reproduction pulleys. They're like 10 bucks. They're pretty cheap. I'll have the link for these. The difference between these and the Shimano, like regular Shimano pulleys, is these are like a tiny bit smaller, which matters. They're like 4mm smaller, which makes a difference. And your second option is trying to buy some new old stock ones on eBay. Again, I'm not going to put a link to this. You can just check on your own, see if there's any new old stock ones. Again, don't overpay because they're usually like pretty expensive. And then finally, you have sealed bearing pulleys. They're only like 20 bucks or like 25-ish. Don't spend more than that on the new old stock ones. And I'll have a link for those in the description as well. First thing you want to do before putting on any of the B-knuckles is you want to grease up this little spot right here behind the spring. As you see, the spring rides on the derailleur itself. So I put a little bit of saran butter here. You don't want too much. It's going to attract dirt, but you just want that to move smooth. Otherwise, it's going to just wear a hole out eventually. Another thing, you can grease up your pivots, lube up your pivots. Again, this is a really high-end derailleur. It's probably going to be used a lot. So you can use Triflow is the best. You can also use like chain oil, tenacious oil. Just do not use WD-40. This little bolt right here, if you took your bolt out and you want to put your spring back in, the spring's going to be tilted. So you want to put your pick in here and kind of lift it up on this other side right here to make it straight so you can put the bolt back in. And remember, you can put some grease on the bolt, some oil as well, just to make things nice and smooth. And then remember, when you put the grease on here, you want to just cycle it a few times and you will literally hear it's going to be a lot quieter. All right, and when you've lubed / greased up all your stuff, you want to just make sure it moves nice and smooth. And now you want to put a light coating of grease on this little inside area. I put some SRAM butter on there, that's why you can't see it. And put in your P-bolt. Again, mine was very hard to get in because it's like a tight fit. So yeah, just make sure you put a light coating and spread it evenly. Alright, so once you got your bolt in, just make sure it moves nice and smooth like this. And it's okay if it pops out a little bit. It's meant to do that. It's just meant not to go all the way out. So, alright, and now for the B-knuckle, you want to grease up the inside. I'm using a thicker grease because this is where the spring goes. Spring, pretty straightforward. You get the little notch and you want to line it up with right here and stick it in. Alright, and now you want to grab your little steel shell, whatever you call it, and you want to put some light grease on the outside because remember it kind of rides on here. And then you want to figure out which hole you want to stick it into. There's the left one is the tighter one, the right one is the looser one. I want to go with the tighter one. So corresponding to that, I'm going to put it in the left one here. And then you can also grease up this bottom part, but remember this part and the cage move in unison, so you don't have to, but you can just put a little bit of grease on there. All right, and now you want to put on your seal. You want to put some light grease on it. I put the SRAM butter stuff on it. Then grease up your bolt and stick it on. And make sure the seal lines up with the groove. And now screw on your cage with the same spot that you put your spring in into this little shell. I did it on the left one, so I'm going to put it on the left one, which is the tighter one. And now screw on your bolt. And when you're screwing on your bolt, make sure just go slow and don't strip it. Now you want to rotate your cage counterclockwise all the way around. You want to make sure it moves nice and smooth, no weird sounds, no rough rubbing. And then once it gets past the spot right here, you want to screw in your pin. All right, and now you want to pull your cage back a little bit and make sure there's no play. And if there is, just tighten down your bolt a little bit more. All right, and now for the pulleys. Again, I'm just using these for the video. You want to get some lighter grease. I'm going to use the SRAM butter stuff. You want to put it on the inside of the steel part. Then you want to put on your bronze bushing. Put it on like in a rotating motion like this. And then you want to put a little bit of grease on the inside of the bronze bushing. And then put on your little metal seals. And you want to put a little bit of grease on the bolt and screw it on. And remember, you don't want to put on too much grease. It's just going to attract dirt. And try not to put any around the seals. And then screw it on. All right, now you want to tighten down your pulley bolts. Make sure your pulleys spin nice and smooth, no rough rubbing. Check your cage again and put on your clamp bolt. And now you have yourself a fully rebuilt derailleur, good for another 500 years.
These kind of derailleurs are the most indestructible derailleurs of all time. The only flaw I can think of is the spring rubbing against the parallelogram, but other than that, these things will literally last forever. So thanks to everyone who subscribed. If you're a Nuovo record owner, shout out to you, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.